Okay, hear me out. Kai Shimada. Yes, the aging, chronically ill, eight-dan shogi player in March Comes In Like a Lion, who's perpetually overlooked, whose hair is thinning out, who has no girlfriend, and who, at almost 40 years old, hasn't even won a single title. Now, I know this isn't the usual pitch, but stay with me, because you know that I, the chattering magpie, will forever extol the virtues of emotionally constipated, supernaturally beautiful, overpowered fictional men who could be villains, but aren't. Bonus points if they're named Ferdinand. But you see, in a medium obsessed with OP protagonists, Shimada's character in March Comes In Like a Lion captivates you before you even realize it. The first time he shows up in the story, he does so almost unobtrusively. You don't even notice it before he takes us all by storm. And the more you pay attention to him, the more you realize that he might be one of the most thoughtfully written male characters in the medium. I'm a fan of drama and slice of life, and for me the pinnacle of these two genres is a series I find myself returning to again and again, and that is March Comes In Like a Lion by the brilliant Chika Umino. The series follows Rei Kiriyama, an introverted teenager who's also a professional shogi player, navigating depression as he lives his life in a kind of self-imposed isolation. Though widely considered a prodigy, having gone pro in middle school, when we first meet him, he's at a really bleak point in his life. Yet over the course of the show, we watch him gradually develop not just his play, but his ability to connect with others. Relationships are at the heart of March Comes In Like a Lion. His rivalry and camaraderie with fellow shogi players, the painful distance from his dysfunctional family, his profound bond with the Kawamoto sisters who literally save him, and the evolution of his relationship with the game itself from something he was forced to choose in order to survive to something far more meaningful and positive. The story is explored with equal parts drama and comedy, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you click off because this video will have some spoilers. Watch it, I promise you that you'll love it. Anyway, I adore Rei and his journey toward healing, and it's the main reason why I love this series. But still, I always find myself drawn to Kai Shimada, Rei's shogi mentor, friend, and yes, rival, because this is the world of competitive shogi after all. It would be inaccurate to call Kai Shimada the story's underdog, because by definition, an underdog is a competitor thought to have little chance of winning or an outsider trying to break in. But when we meet Shimada, he's a well-established, respected 8-dan player. However, compared to the other high-ranked players, many of whom are intimidatingly aggressive, loud, or brash, Shimada seems gentle, unassuming, and underwhelming, easily overlooked. Not only that, but even fans, especially manga readers, have noticed a particular pattern as the story goes on, and that is that the man can never catch a break. Not only does he struggle with crippling stomach issues that affect his game, but at the most crucial moments, luck seems to desert him, costing him vital matches. The thing is, though, with every rewatch, I find myself loving him more and more. To borrow a line from Mr. Izumida, a newspaper reporter who has covered Shimada for years, I am totally enamored with the guy. Because beyond the shogi board, Shimada embodies many characteristics that are easy to miss in a world obsessed with victories and rankings, and that I feel are rare to see celebrated or showcased in media, let alone in the real world, especially with male characters. He's not the stoic lone wolf, the aggressive alpha who dominates through force. He's also not the super intelligent genius or the overpowered protagonist who bends the world to his will. Instead, Shimada is a humble, generous, gentle, and even nurturing character. He's vulnerable without being weak, and he perseveres through emotional resilience and connection to others. qualities that shine through in his relationships within the cutthroat world of competitive shogi. Kai Shimada is an accomplished shogi professional in his late 30s, ranked 8th dan. But he isn't satisfied, not when he compares himself to the current Meijin. Shimada and Soya are around the same age and broke into the shogi world at roughly the same time. But while Soya had a meteoric rise, collecting titles and becoming the youngest Meijin in history at just 21, Shimada floundered for years before finally reaching rank A, though it was definitely not from lack of effort. Hailing from a rural village in Yamagata, Shimada's journey to becoming a pro was marked by hardship. He worked long hours on the farm to earn money to travel to Tokyo and study shogi, depending on his fellow villagers' support to make it possible. Years of grueling schedules and sleepless nights spent commuting by bus took a lasting toll on his health, leaving Shimada with chronic stomach pain that still haunts him through high-pressure matches. His poor health becomes his Achilles heel and a recurring personal struggle that shadows his career throughout the story. Maybe his chronic condition is why he comes off as frail. He's slender and thin, with olive green, drowsy-looking eyes and short brown hair that falls over his forehead. The running gag is that he lacks presence. Some at the Shogi Association joke that he looks like he'll be blown away by a strong wind. Others, comparing him to Soya, make harsher observations. The Meijin seemingly hasn't aged a day since claiming his title at 21, while Shimada looks so much older, thinning hair and all. And yet, even when set against more aggressive and far more intimidating opponents, he somehow comes out on top, and nowhere is that more clear than in his match against Goto. If March Comes In Like a Lion has a villain, it's Masamune Goto, a 9-dan professional who's aggressive both on and off the board. Rei holds a deep grudge against him for getting involved with his adoptive sister, even though Goto is married. And after being confronted, Goto beat him bloody. For Rei, Goto represents everything he both hates and fears, and can't yet stand up to. Brute strength, emotional intimidation, and the kind of bullying that leaves him feeling small and powerless. Goto is higher ranked, older, physically imposing, and confident. His fierce demeanor inspires fear, and his play matches, which are often built around a static rook opening, are true to his aggressive nature. He fits every surface expectation of what a strong man should be. By every conventional metric, he should be superior. Meanwhile, Shimada is stuck at a career plateau at 8-dan, and widely seen as someone unlikely to go much further. Narratively, he is the underdog. Yet when they meet in the Meijin qualifiers, in what I feel is almost a symbolic confrontation between two versions of masculinity, it's Shimada who prevails after multiple grueling matches. Yeah, he pretty much almost kills himself in the process, but he still beat Goto. In March Comes In Like a Lion, every match reflects an inner conflict. Before this arc, Goto comes to represent, for Rei, a world that has no place for someone like him. A world where sensitivity is a liability and physical and emotional weakness are punished. Unfortunately, after years of being bullied and neglected, Rei has internalized the belief that if he doesn't become like that, he will always lose. That's why, to Rei, defeating Goto is imperative, because then it would mean proving that someone like him can survive in the world. Yet Rei never even gets the chance to go against Goto. Not only was he outmatched physically in a fight, but even in shogi, he lost pathetically and got eliminated before he could even play against Goto. Instead, it is Shimada who goes on to confront Goto, symbolically accomplishing what Rei could not.
That's Shimada 8th Dan, a natural-born climber. So cool!
Shimada is too frail for physical confrontation, and anyway, he's not the kind of person who will play by those rules. Yet that doesn't mean that he's a pushover. My favorite moments are when he refuses to be cowed at shogi, standing up to Goto's intimidation fearlessly. In fact, in the opening for this season, both he and Goto are almost on the same level. They're both intense in their different ways. Just because he's not aggressive and brash like Goto doesn't mean that he's less of a man. He possesses a fierce resolve that is truly unparalleled. Unlike Rei, he is able to stand in front of a terrifying, overwhelming force and refuse to be erased by it. Shimada's strength is that he can endure this overwhelming pressure without breaking. What makes his victory even more meaningful is what follows. First, it earns Rei's admiration, prompting him to seek out Shimada's workshop and choose him as his shogi mentor. In doing so, Rei rejects one vision of masculinity in favor of another, and in a way he is deciding what kind of man he wants to become. Finally, I also find it very significant how later, after Shimada suffers a devastating defeat against Soja, and other players disparage him, it's Goto who steps in and in his characteristically cutting way silences them, acknowledging Shimada as a worthy opponent who will undoubtedly rise again. Even Goto, for all his flaws, recognizes and respects Shimada's strengths.
That's our Shimada 8th Den! He handles even an avalanche of power pieces with composure!
Despite his intensity in competitive shogi, Shimada can best be described as gentle and nurturing, instinctively drawn to guiding younger players like Rei and forming a workshop for them to practice and grow their skills. Mentors in all kinds of storytelling, especially in anime, so often fall into predictable patterns. There's the harsh taskmaster who believes suffering builds character, the distant master who withholds knowledge until students prove themselves, and then there's the eccentric, mystifying ones who baffle more than help. Shimada is none of these things. He opens his home to students, creating a safe space where they can learn together. But more than that, he opens himself, allowing others to see what he's really like. In visiting Shimada's house for shogi, Rei ends up seeing his mentor when he's tired, when he's in pain, when he's struggling. For the first time, Rei is given a model of how to exist as a person in a brutal, competitive profession. Additionally, this also allows Rei to care for Shimada in return when he falls ill, an essential step for someone who began the series being totally detached from others. For Rei, shogi had always meant isolation, survival, and conditional worth. But by starting the workshops in Shimada's home, he comes to see shogi as part of a community. And this is not accidental, because Shimada grew up in a town where the elders supported him. Now, he seeks to recreate that same structure for others. Yes, the workshop is about growing and nurturing shogi players, but far more than producing champions, it is about ensuring that none of them have to fight alone. Of all Shimada's qualities, perhaps none matters more than his relationship to the community he came from, and not just where he came from, but where he is still attached to. How many stories have we seen where a character has severed all ties to where they come from, where they're forced to stand alone against the world, either refusing to need anyone or because everyone they had once had is gone? At worst, these kind of characters embody a pathological obsession with self-sufficiency that borders on toxic. Shimada rejects this entirely. Though years have passed, he has never cut ties from the people who helped him become who he is. His strength comes from his community. He doesn't hide his roots or outgrow his hometown. He doesn't view his town people's absurdly earnest expectations of him as something to escape. Even after reaching the highest levels of play, he's someone who still belongs, who's helping to support local businesses and sponsoring programs for the elderly, ensuring that they have community in that deeply rural area. And so he strives to give back to the people who first believed in him. What makes this bond especially beautiful is what happens when Shimada returns after losing the Meijin title match. He doesn't come home triumphant, but rather he comes home as a man who has fallen short. What's more, people even joke lightheartedly that the rain seems to follow him as if he's cursed. And yet, gentle ribbing aside, he is welcomed with warmth and encouragement. The townspeople, who call him Kai rather than by his professional title, reminds him that his worth was never conditional on winning. And March comes in like a lion. Failure is not treated as a weakness, nor is a man's worth measured by his victories. Shimada's community continue to offer him something far more sustaining, and that is unconditional acceptance. Yes, they would celebrate if he became the first Meijin from their town, but they love him just as fiercely and claim him just as proudly, whether he returns home triumphant or not, simply because he's their Kai. What I love so much about this is that Shimada is man enough and secure enough to accept that love without shame. He simply receives it from his community humbly and with grace, and he allows it to become the strength that carries him forward. He returns to Tokyo loaded down with food and gifts from his hometown, but also with renewed determination to start again and continue playing. This aspect of Shimada inspires Rei most of all. Watching him with his community, Rei thinks to himself how happy he could be if he had something like that. In Shimada, Rei sees a future he didn't know was allowed to exist. A life where connection is not a liability but a source of strength, where emotional bonds are worth nurturing, and where the burden of fighting doesn't have to be carried alone. That is why, coming from an isolated upbringing in a dysfunctional home, Rei sees in Shimada a path forward. He turns away from the ideal of the solitary genius or the self-made man who never burdens others or sheds tears. The adult he believed he had to become when he first became a shogi pro. Instead, Rei begins to walk a different path, one where he allows himself to be loved and learns, in turn, to love others back. I think the biggest reason why Shimada appeals to me, and perhaps to so many others, is that he's the epitome of a good person, and a realistic portrayal of someone who tries their hardest in life and persists, even when it doesn't seem to pay off. Unlike in other stories where efforts guarantee that they'll win the championship, get the girl, or achieve their dreams through sheer force of will or some kind of hidden power, Shimada's story stays grounded in reality. Sometimes things just won't work out. But you still have to get up and keep trying, again and again and again. While we expect that Rei will reach his full potential in shogi because he's the protagonist and because that's how these stories go, Shimada's path is still uncertain. He might never become Meijin. Rei, who is only just beginning his professional run, might at one point surpass his mentor's rank and title. And yet, his character proves that endurance and perseverance have their own rewards that can't be measured by titles alone. Now, Shimada is not perfect, of course. He is single-minded to the detriment of his health. His relationship falls apart when his girlfriend grows tired of waiting, and whether his sacrifices were worth what he lost remains an open question. The thing is, though, unlike shogi where there's always a clear winner and a loser, in life, winning looks different for different people and different circumstances. Before facing Soya, in what is possibly his last chance to bring the Meijin match to his hometown, Shimada openly admits that the odds are against him. He is facing a once-in-a-generation genius while enduring crushing pressure and debilitating pain. And yet, he still wants to try with everything he has. For Shimada, effort is not dependent on outcome. It's a matter of dignity. He fights because giving it his best honors the game his community, and himself. And when he loses, his loss is devastating, but it's also reframed as something survivable, for his identity is not caught up in the winning and the losing of a board game. This is why Ray, who has long tied his self-worth to winning, is so deeply affected by Shimada. Yes, in this world obsessed with winners, how we play matters just as much as winning. Those who treat people with kindness and who build community around them can keep showing up and are able to refuse to let defeat define them. In March Comes In Like a Lion, Chika Umino gives voice to an ideal rarely celebrated. Shimada is a supporting character who may never stand at the top. He may always be seen by those who aren't lucky enough to know him as a perpetual underdog, but he has something far more valuable. He has rivals who respect him, students who thrive because of him, a community that holds and supports him, the dignity of someone who fought with everything he had. And, in the end, isn't that the truest victory of all? Thank you for watching. I know this isn't my usual kind of video. Most of the time I'm here hyping Ascendance of a Bookworm, and if you happen to stumble into this channel without knowing what Ascendance of a Bookworm is, I'd love for you to check it out too. It's not your typical isekai. It has a female protagonist who starts off perpetually on the brink of death, it has great world building and great characters, and it's just a great watch. I've got plenty of videos on it if you're curious, so please go check them out. Thank you so much to my monthly supporters for making videos like these possible. If you want to help this channel, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and become a member. Until next time, take care.
Can you believe it? That punk only cared to make copies of Mr. Goto's and your game records before the match.
Sounds like what a kid would do. Bet he made 20 copies of Goto's, and like only 5 of mine. Wait, am I right? Back when I was a kid, I got dropped off in the mountains and was told not to come back home until I filled up my pack with bamboo shoots and vegetables. Whoa, that was close. So you see, that was sort of a bad part of my past.
Fine then.
Falling Rock Special.
Man, I'm tired. Whew, I need to take a break. I did it! I actually won the challengers. It feels better than I imagined. I gotta say, my stomach.
What was that? A match between terminal patients? Your health sucks! You're both old fogies! Go see a doctor and get some modern-day medicine!
Oh, wow. So many of them. Are you sure? All of these? Wow. But wait, don't you want to keep any for yourself?
Nah, I'm afraid the citrus acid would be way too hard on my digestion. Kiriyama! Oh, you little... You damn bastard, Kiriyama!
Good morning, Mr. Shimada.
Guess who won, kiddo?
Yes! I knew you'd win! That was awesome! After one match, he's exhausted!
What the hell?
Wait, but Goto is a married man. Then who's that? She's so beautiful and young.
Did they just have an argument?
What is this sense of defeat?
No! That was nothing at all! I'll win the next one too, damn it!
Okay, settle down now, settle down. This argument could reach the ends of the Milky Way without an outcome, right?
Shimada's right. We should just move on. So let's try to keep it friendly, okay?
Oh, thank you, Kiriyama!
And besides, neither tactic is that special. They're both pretty basic.
What'd you just say? I don't think I heard you right.
To be honest with you, I basically just squeaked by. I was right on the border and managed to make it by a hair.
Make it by a hair?
When he says that, it really makes sense. Congratulations, sincerely.
What's wrong? Why are you guys all crying?
Be more specific. What do you mean? Tell us now, or do you want me to make you talk?
Hey, what do you think you're doing with my cactus? Hey, come on in. Thanks for coming back today.
Whoa, have you gotten any sleep?
Yeah, I slept. More like I passed out. But later that night...
4-6 bishop, not 6-6 silver, silver stain! The 6-5 pawn then takes that silver. Rook at 5-5 takes 6-6 lance, but I overlooked that 4-6 bishop! I'm a goner! No! He'll have me checkmated before lunch!
By then it was too late. Much too late. So I spent the whole night trying to think of a way I could stay in the game. And my stomach was on fire. I tossed and turned endlessly until morning. Huh? Wait, what was it that I was talking about again?
What? They gotta be kidding. Come on. This one's even worse than the one they did before.
Why in the world is there a close-up of us in there?
And those oval frames around the two of you. It's like photos of students who were absent on the day of the graduation class group photo.
Yeah, but when they took away the frames, it sort of gave off a strange vibe. Kind of like saying, we're always watching you from heaven. A commemorative photo? With me too? Excuse me. I was under the impression you guys came here to support me.
He dropped the bishop right away. However, it was a wise decision.
Well, I'm sure if you leave Shimada alone, he'll start winning again on his own.
That's right, Goto. It's just like you said. Tediously, steadily. He'll build himself up, and then he'll come back, another layer thicker and wiser. Yes, he must be just like a Zelkova tree.